Hi everyone, and welcome to Indie Geek, and welcome to a live stream with someone that I consider one of the legends of the YouTube Game of Thrones community. You will know him as the guy with the amazing hair. We all know him as Sir Hunts. Mark, do you want to introduce yourself to everyone?
What's up, everyone? Thank you, the great Giles. You know what I was going to say. Thank you, Giles. Thank you, Robert, Indie Geek, for having me on your channel, good sir. I'm Mark from Sir Hunt's Reviews, and I make Game of Thrones videos, mainly based on the TV show. A little bit of book stuff here and there.
Hello. Fantastic. And for guys, if you don't know, the Giles thing is a long running thing between me and Mark. It's ages ago, way back when I had like 3.5 subscribers and I was on a live stream and he thought I was a bit like Giles from Buffy. And you know what? There are worse people to be compared to. So I'm quite happy with that one. That's absolutely fine.
I actually found a picture.
He did find a picture, and I look nothing like him. He's a very dashing man, and I'm very, very flattered. But you know, I'll take it. I will take it. Okay, guys. Just to let you know, I put it up there just like a couple of hours ago. Today we're mainly going to be focusing in on the Cleganes. We'll look at both of them. We'll look at Sandor and we'll look at Gregor, and then obviously at the end we'll look at how the two might come together. What is the fate of the Cleganes? So that's what we're doing. We'll keep an eye on the chat. So if anything comes up there, then we'll pick up on that. Obviously, if there's any super chats, we'll get to them straight away. But we've got a few questions we want to work through. Actually, we had one super chat before we even went live, and before I told anyone it was about the Cleganes, Alison Mutlu. So if we answer this one quickly first, then Sir Hunts will go from there. She says Jaime received help by Qyburn for his chopped hand. Jaime states, "I don't need my right hand to kill you." Is Jaime the Valonqar since he choked him? What do you reckon? Is Jaime the Valonqar?
All right, just my personal opinion. I feel like this prophecy has been so hyped. I would laugh if the showrunners had intended to include it, but because it has become so hyped, like Cleganebowl, they just tuck it out of the way, like it doesn't actually happen. Like Cersei dies, but I honestly think she's gonna live, but what if she dies and it just has nothing to do with the Valonqar prophecy? I do think that there's a little bit of foreshadowing to the fact that he's like saying, you know, but then you could also say that when the original promo pictures came out for season 7, him standing on the neck and her standing on the fingers are opposite of that, whatever. That's also foreshadowing to it. I honestly think that the only way for the Valonqar theory to happen is if this is like a little bit of tinfoil, but if she somehow dies because the baby that she's having is the younger brother of her former kids or younger sister, however you want to translate that prophecy, and because that baby ends up strangling, like the umbilical cord strangles itself, she dies that way. Like, I don't know. That was just a little bit of tinfoil, I guess.
I love a bit of tinfoil. If for my money, I think if anyone's going to kill Cersei, I think Jaime is the prime candidate. I have to say, just in terms of where the narrative arc is going, I think we're going to end up in season 8 with just like half a dozen characters who've got a really good and strong reason to kill Cersei. I think she will die. I honestly think she will die, but I think Jaime is the most likely, but it's not certain. I don't think the thing with Qyburn was particular foreshadowing, but I think that was a bit too far ago for it to be used in that way. But Alison, I hope that one answers your question there on Jaime. Let's get to talk about the Cleganes, and we've had Crypts of Winterfell has come in with a super chat here. Starting off with the mountain. So let's start off with the mountain. He says, "Gotta know, what did the mountain do to the Sparrow's #1 nun?" This is down in the dungeons of King's Landing. Do you think he's still alive? I assume that's she's still alive. What do you reckon, Mark? What do you reckon?
Septonella? I honestly, I mean, I don't know. Like, we're supposed to assume that he raped her. You know, he does, like, according to Oberyn, he likes to rape and murder people. So who's to say he didn't rape her and then murder her afterwards and maybe she's dead or something? I don't know. I honestly think that Cersei probably would have kept her alive as long as possible because she wants her to feel the same thing Cersei did about being trapped in that cell with no way out. She wants her to feel that as long as possible. So a lot of people think that she That'll go off too much on a tangent. I feel like he probably, simplest answer, he raped her and then he killed her. But, you know, longer answer, she maybe still be alive being tortured by him. But we're obviously led to believe that it's rape. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think fundamentally I think she's gone from the show now. I think that we will never actually find out what happens to her. And I think the whole point is that she was there. This was Cersei getting her revenge. So I think, yeah, she probably made it last a long time. She probably got the mountain to make sure it lasted a long time. I'm sure it was a whole load of really horrible things. And frankly, I think they just left it to our imagination. So is she still alive? Possibly, but I don't think we're going to see her again. If we do, not in any kind of like fit shape to be part of the of the series. I hope that answered your question there, Crips. I think after that, in terms of the mountain, this actually gets into what I think is one of the fundamental points about the mountain, which is actually how much of him is still there, how much of him is the mountain, and how much of him is sort of an undead. How much of his personality is still there. Now, I know a lot of you probably saw I did a video just last week about Qyburn. And the question that I've got, which is leading up to a video next week, is what actually is an undead in Game of Thrones? What actually is this kind of like white? So I don't know, and I will probably come back to this again in a week or so's time, but I do not know how much of the mountain's personality was in that. I suspect actually there was a lot more of what he was ordered to do. So yeah, I hope that helps out, Crips. Azora Hype, $5, $5 Canadian, which I have no idea how much that is.
Like $2. I'm just kidding.
I don't know. Carl, I love you, man. Thank you. That's really kind. Donation train time, he says. Let's see how many donations we can get for these handsome gents. Hype. Sir, you are such a gentleman, and if you were here, you would just make it more handsome. You would bring the average up, I can tell you. Thank you so much. That's amazing. And we've got another one. So Emilio Camacho Oriche says, can you answer a Nicola Duracan question? First time for my glasses on, so I hunt for that. Let's see, Nicola Duracan. Do you believe that the child killed by the mountain was not Aegon? Oh, right. So this opens up a whole can of worms. So this is going back to Robert's Rebellion, for those who aren't aware. This is the fact that when the Lannisters, when Tywin came in, they took over, they kicked out the Targaryen rule, and we are told that the mountain killed King Aerys's children. So we've got Aegon there, who then we get a character reappearing in the books much later, claiming to be this Aegon. Short answer to that is, yeah, I think that was Aegon. I think Aegon's gone. I think that the new one is a fake. I think that that's foreshadowed or hinted at in Daenerys' visions in the House of the Undying. But I know you're such a huge Targaryen fan over there, Sir Hunts. You will have the answers for us.
All right. Well, you kind of set me up for failure on that one. Watch, I'm gonna forget someone's name. But no. I just had two things I want to say. I want to comment on that, but on the first thing, what you were saying about the mountain, like, you know, I did a video on Qyburn, and it actually got like completely taken down. I didn't get a community guideline strike, but the video got removed from YouTube, and I'm in the middle of handling that shit right now. Oh, didn't mean to say that. All right, but okay. So in that video, I mentioned how I think that there's a part of the brain that you have like your control center, your rational thinking or whatever. Qyburn removed that, and this is why Sir Robert Strong is just so obedient or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, this is why he just stays loyal to Cersei. The one part of his brain that's left is that, like, just the obedience center. Like, he follows the rules or whatever. He wants to follow the norm, and that's protecting the queen being Cersei. I think that there's a little bit of that, and I think as far as like the second part, see, I got sidetracked.
Aegon.
Okay, so do I think that that's a possibility that Fagon is the real Aegon that wasn't? I mean, I guess, but I feel like Dan and Dave left it out of the show for a reason. And that being that it's just like a plot. I know it's like a huge plot, but it's a plot that just kind of goes nowhere. Maybe George has different plans for it, but I feel like maybe he told Dan and Dave that, yeah, he's not, he's a pretender. You know what I mean? So if that's the case, he could be a Blackfire. I don't know if he's the baby Aegon. It just seems like it was. We do know that Varys told King Aerys not to let Tywin into the gates. That's when the mountain came in. That's when he did those horrific things. So maybe since Varys knew that, you know, it wasn't the best thing to let Tywin in, maybe he did act quickly and was able to get Aegon out of there. But I don't know. I think that he may be a Blackfire, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good point about the. I've entirely forgotten your really good point. You made a really good point about Dan and Dave. That was it. They left Aegon out of the plot, having spoken to George R. R. Martin, and I think if Aegon was a central character in the end game, then he would be on the show. So I think that's a really good point. Karen Richmond has sent through $20 brackets £14.49 in real money. Thank you so much, everyone. You appreciate my lack of understanding of other currencies. That's really kind. Just for talking Clegane, happy to. There'll be a lot of more Clegane coming. Crypts of Winterfell, $10. Qyburn said he took an oath of silence. Did he? Do you think the mountain can still talk? This is an excellent question. Go on, Mark. You go first on this one. Do you think he can talk, the mountain?
No. And I think that whole like he'll talk when he's done serving the queen or when he's done avenging the queen or whatever. That's when he'll speak. That was just a ruse to make it so that this guy who, and that could be part of it too, is like he can't speak, and that's like makes him more like obedient, I guess. Like if you can't, we do know that Euron does this with his priest or his crewmates or whatever on his ship to sort of keep them more obedient, and so that they can't tell his secrets. So maybe the whole ideal behind that is just it was just a ruse to get him to get everyone to be like, okay, why is this dude not saying nothing? It could just be that he took a vow of silence. I think that he actually can't speak. I think that part of the brain that controls his motor functions, like speaking and stuff, was destroyed with Qyburn, with Oberyn's poison.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. I mean, I think that was just a cover for the fact that he's not going to say anything. And as a sort of a teaser for my video coming on Saturday about the nature of death and life and the undead in Game of Thrones, I think there's a difference between reanimation and resurrection. And I think that the mountain has been reanimated, and he's not got the sort of traces of who he used to be there, but he's not the mountain as was. He's more like the Ice Whites, where there's like bits of their physical characteristics of who they were, but they're not their old characters. So I think that's what's going on there. So Crips, I hope that answers that one. Thank you very much. Kay Jackson, $20, no question, but thank you so much. And then Michael Palmer with some real money, £12.34. Thank you so much. Says, will Cersei escape justice and death and disappear with Qyburn, leaving Arya to wander west of Westeros to find that biatch? Okay, I'll throw this one over to you, Mark, again to start with, while I just flick forward in the comments. What do you think? Will Cersei, you suggested she might live. Do you think that?
Yes. Honestly, as part of the bittersweet ending, mainly because I feel like we've shifted focus from these human villains in our story, like, you know, Ramsay, Tywin, at one point, Jaime. We've shifted away from that. We've gone to this supernatural element. We do know that dragons can cause a lot of damage. Sometimes the damage they cause can hurt characters that we love, like when Jaime almost got burned all to shit. So if this is the case, I feel like having Cersei left alive and realizing that she's the final threat that our main heroes have to face, it's a human threat, that makes it more... I feel like we can connect with that more. So I would not be surprised if she was able to survive throughout the end. I'm not saying that House Lannister and all of its supremacy or whatever is still there, but Cersei herself is one of the final people alive, and she's in the best position because she still may have a small army to control the Seven Kingdoms. So it's like you did all this good to prevent the long night. You saved everyone from this terrible Night King, but then you still got Cersei to worry about. And honestly, I don't know. I just like her so much. I would think it would be cool if she lived. So I guess I'm kind of biased.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've been told this is going to be a bittersweet ending, and I think a lot of people build on this a lot. But I think one of the things that means we should not expect all of the good guys to survive and all of the bad guys to die. That's just not how it's going to end. I think there will be some characters that we might think of as being bad characters who will survive, and I think for my money, the most likely of those is Euron, actually. But I wouldn't put it past Cersei to be surviving. So maybe. And so in terms of the second half of that, with Arya heading off west, then yeah, in the books, I actually think she will end up warging into Nymeria. I think that's the end of her story there. But yeah, she's one of those people who will be heading off down south, I'm sure, with a grudge, wanting to kill Cersei. Okay, we've got Emilio has come in with hang on, can you answer Forrest Blurter question on the House of the Undying, and has very helpfully converted for me £4.45,656,187.
Your super chats are going in crazy. I can't even see some of the questions that you're reading. That's what's up, dude.
Guys, seriously, this is blowing my mind. This is fantastic.
Keep giving him money. just keep sending it through. Give him like $30. Come on, you guys. Yeah, that's nuts.
Okay, so I'm just flicking back. Forrest Blurter's question was, are the undead in the House of the Undying kept alive from the same force as the ones in the north? Okay, guys, are you just like asking me questions so I just tell you everything that's going to be in my video on Saturday? Because this is basically what's happening here.
Just tell them they gotta wait. Just tell them they gotta wait.
No, the guys, they're being too generous. So I think that fundamentally what we're getting to is the fact that there are aspects of what it is to be alive and dead that are different in the world of Ice and Fire to our world. There is very clearly a difference in when you die, something lingers, says Qyburn. Something lingers about the soul, which is why we see this happening not just with the Ice Whites being reanimated, but also with the Fire Whites, with Beric and with Jon and with Lady Stoneheart. And I think that's the same with the Children of the Forest. When they go into the weirwoods, something's still there, and you get the faces and the faceless men. And here, I think it's another aspect of it. I think that there is something that can survive beyond death. So that's my thought. But Mark, any thoughts from you?
Well, I was just saying, is my mic low? Like, there was a few people that kept saying that in the chat.
You're going in and out a little bit.
All right, that's weird. This is like a brand new microphone too. I should have just used the old one because I knew it worked, and it just figured this out. I don't know. I feel like I adjusted the volume on it, so it should go up.
Well, shall I answer the next one while you're fiddling around with that one? Yeah, which is from Penny Crump. $5. Can Qyburn make Cersei an undead army or make an undead Cersei? I think the short answer to this is yes, he could, because he's done it once. I think that the mountain is proof for him of what he's been studying all this time. It shows that he knows how to do this. Now, we don't yet know how quickly he can do this, but we do know that he can do this. And that means I think that he almost certainly will be producing more undead, more reanimated corpses, as it were. So will this make for an undead Cersei? Perhaps not that, but I can certainly see the logical question that she's going to ask when she sees, hey, you can produce one unbeatable undead knight for me. Can you make any more? So I think the answer to that one is yes. How's the sound going over there?
I think I got it. I just had to adjust it in the mic properties. But I want to say that too, like that. have you guys watched my video? And do you know what Robert's video is going to be about? Because these questions are literally like, oh, that's hilarious. It's like they're pitting. It's almost like they're trying to ask you questions about literally things that I addressed in my video. Because I mentioned Qyburn making a white army for Cersei because they'd be more obedient. You know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, it's a logical thought process, but it kind of seems like they're trying to ask your opinion on whatever. I definitely see that that's a possibility. I feel like if we're going to have like this massive army, and we do know that the red priests and priestesses can bring people back from the dead, we know that the Night King can do this. It would only make sense with Qyburn being this master of death, with this necromancer almost. He would make some sort of, maybe not a massive army, but a small army. So you have like these 3 undead armies going up against the Night, like in one final battle. You'll have Jon Snow and the Fire Whites, Cersei and the Qyburn Whites, and then the Night King and his regular Whites. Oh, that would be like an insane scene, right? It's good at like final scene or whatever, or final battle.
Absolutely. So I know I think that again, diving into my video on Saturday, we need to stop getting away from thinking that this is a matter of the living versus the dead. This is the army of the dead versus another army potentially with some dead people in, and possibly an army of the dead, and yet another force that might be an army of the dead. So the living are going to be kind of squeezed in the middle and will actually be out across a number of different places. So it's not living versus dead anymore. Okay, let's go on. Crypts, $10. Thank you again. Get straight to the heart of the matter. Cleganebowl. And I have to say, I'm going to put it on record, I do not like the phrase Cleganebowl, but, you know, everyone uses it and we all know what it means. Cleganebowl, yes or no, and why? You go first.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's already happened. So if it does happen again, it'll be the second one. And I feel like we're kind of owed it. It was set up. I mean, he literally, Sandor walks up to his bro and he's like, look, my dude, for lack of better words, not verbatim, he's like, you know what's coming for you. You know what I'm saying? I'm either coming to whoop your ass or someone's coming to do it. Like, it's going to go down. It's going to happen. I don't know. I feel like I want it to happen, and because of that, I'm biased in answering. But in all, like, when you look at the way the storyline goes, it'll kind of be hard for him to get away. So we know the major battles are going to be in the north, or at least north of King's Landing. We know that the mountain is going to stay by Cersei. So logically, when you try to figure out what would make Sandor go south, it's almost impossible to think of something like that. Like him going south, we saw in that initial trailer, we kind of immediately figured out, you know, why he's there. He's there to show the white. Like, you could see him opening up the chest. A lot of people knew that from that trailer. You could just tell that, you know, that's where he is. But I can't think of any reason. You know, I have mentioned in a video of mine, like, maybe he goes on a mission with Arya. Like, maybe Arya's like, look, we defeated the Night King. Now we just need to go take care of Cersei. Or maybe she thinks that she, like Jon Snow and Daenerys, have the Night King under control. So she's like, let me go take care of Cersei because Cersei is a threat in the south. And maybe is a group of them that kind of go together. You have Sandor and maybe Brienne going with her. But I don't know. I feel like if you're just the way the story's going, I don't see why he would have to go back down south. What do you think?
I think on the show they have foreshadowed this so much. I think it's inevitable. I honestly do. I think in the books it's probably going to happen as well. I think the way I come at it is that this is Sandor's arc, his story arc. This is the why, if you like, in Crypt's question, is that so where his story arc started was that as a child his face was pushed down into the fire by his brother, and that scarred him. And as a result of that, he got scared of fire, and he's had a grudge against his brother that he couldn't do anything about. Now, when you go through the rest of his character arc, he gets faced with huge amounts of fire at the Battle of Blackwater, and he runs away. And then over time, he has to start to confront it. He confronts it when he's fighting Beric. Beric had his flaming sword. He was scared, and he made the next step that he could overcome his fear. Then in the show, you see he gets to the point where he can look into the flame, he can stare into the flames. So he's now suddenly got to the point where not only is he not scared of it, but he can actually use it in some way. And I think for me, the logical next step is that he has to have the flaming sword. He has to actually be able to use that sword. And as we know, the mountain is a white of some description, a Qyburn white, let's call him. And how do you kill them? With fire. So I think it's the full character arc for Sandor Clegane is bringing him back around to where he was with his brother as small children. So that is why I think certainly in the show and probably in the books we will get a confrontation between the two of them with Sandor wielding a fiery sword. That's my overall justification for why I think it will happen. Okay, Kerry McDonald, you're ready to discuss who will kill Cersei. I'm leaning towards Euron on the show, and you're all fantastic. In an English accent, saying "y'all" doesn't come across very well. Sorry, guys, but there you go. You are all fantastic. Thank you very much. Cersei will die, Mark. Okay, what do you reckon? Are you ready to discuss who will kill Cersei? I'm going to say Jaime. We touched on this a moment ago. You're going to say no one?
No one, and by saying no one, I don't mean secretly Arya. But yeah, and you said it doesn't work to say y'all with an English accent, but I have an English accent, and I say y'all all the time. Touche, good friend. Yours is like an actual English accent, though, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I wouldn't quite put you down as an English accent, but you know, other British people in the chat, feel free to contradict me. If you think that this guy sounds like he's Ned Stark, you just let me know.
I was about to say I could do a Ned Stark impression, but might want to save that for later or something. I don't know.
Yeah, but please don't. I might need a drink first. Okay, so I think the other thing which Mark kind of hinted at there is that I think it works best for Jaime's character arc for him to be killing Cersei at the end, probably also dying in the process. I could see that happening. She said early on, you know, we came into this life together. We're going to spend our lives together. We will depart this life together. That's very much where I think his arc is going. But the other way I could see it happening is if Arya takes Jaime's face on and kills her herself. So that's the other possible way. So I do think Cersei will die, and I think it will be Jaime or Arya with Jaime's face. Alison Mutlu, Robert and Sir Hunts, thank you. You are very welcome. Thank you. Do you think Sandor's fate is to become a prominent faith leader? What path is his life taking him thus far? I think this is good because I think we need to question which faith and whether or not that's where he ends up. What do you reckon, Mark?
I'm sorry. I was.
Have I caught you unawares? I do apologize.
Yes. I'm gonna go off your answer, so you answer first.
Okay. So where this is coming from, and I mean, I've seen a lot of people who, and this actually, it was Pegleg Pete, one of my patrons, sort of raised this idea about, and actually, I hope Pete, let me know in the chat if I didn't. I hope we covered the first half of what you said already with the sort of the talk about Cleganebowl and the fiery sword. But he was talking about the fact that Sandor may now be a chosen warrior of the Lord of Light in some way. This, I think, is sort of complementing the idea that his character arc is going from being incredibly afraid of fire to embracing it fully in some way and getting the fiery sword. So the question is Sandor going to become a faith leader? Personally, I think not. I think on the show he was very much, even after he saw the vision in the flames, which I don't think was him and his power. I think that was Thoros casting the flame spell or whatever it is, and he called him over and said, come look at this. I don't think that was any particular power that the Hound had. But after that, he went outside, he buried the farmer, and he said a prayer over them, and the prayer was all he could remember from the prayer about the faith of the Seven. So I don't think he's been won over to the faith of the Lord of Light. I don't see him ending up as some kind of faith leader. I don't think he believes in the faith of the Seven either. He's very much a kind of a realist, a humanitarian is probably the wrong way of saying it, but a humanist. He believes in the grit of real life rather than following the gods. Is that enough for you to go off on now?
Yeah, definitely. I was gonna say, like, he's more of like a right here, right now. I believe what I can see. So I don't necessarily think that, although I honestly disagree with you a little bit. I do think he's a champion of R'hllor. R'hllor has totally chosen him to sort of like lead this. I don't think he's gonna be someone who preaches the faith afterwards and tries to spread it. No, not at all. But I definitely think there are certain characters that are chosen by R'hllor, and there's a few of them, Sandor being one of them. But I do agree with you in the sense that he's not swaying towards any faith. He's acting like he kind of follows this R'hllor thing because he's seen it. He's seen it happen. He's seen some crazy shit. So he's like, I split a man in half. This man is talking to me right now. And that was several years ago, and he's still walking around. So he's seen that, and he sort of believes that part of R'hllor. He knows that there's a little bit of something there. But I feel like he's not going to become anything other than just Sandor afterwards. Like, I feel like he would be a good traveling companion with Arya if Arya goes west to Westeros or something. Like, you imagine, like, I those are my favorite scenes from Game of Thrones. That's really when I truly fell in love with the show. Before, like, ever looking up anything about the novels or anything like that, the scenes with Arya and Sandor, they were hilarious. And you had such crazy drama going on. But then you cut to these two, and not only are they badass, but they are also really funny. So I feel like a good ending for him may be to travel with Arya to west of Westeros. I do think he's chosen, but I kind of think I agree with you in the sense that he's more like he believes in like what he sees. You know what I mean? Seeing is believing kind of thing.
Yeah, well, I think fundamentally, as anyone who's watched my videos on the Lord of Light will know, I don't believe that the Lord of Light is a real thing. I think that's all made up. What's actually the matter here is not actually the existence of that particular deity. What matters is the fact that people believe in it, and that's what's driving the action. It's the fact that Melisandre believes passionately in her interpretation of it, and that's what's going on. I don't think we've seen any evidence that the Lord of Light actually exists.
Well, let's not even open up the books because that's a can of worms. Just on the TV show, Jon Snow was clearly dead as dead, really dead, and then he was brought back. That is proof that R'hllor exists. He's literally like, all right, my dudes, I'm here. I'm the actual Jon Snow's Jesus Christ. Bam. You know what I mean? Like Jon Snow's literally, I don't know, man. I don't know.
Well, as you're also going into my next video, mate, I can assure you that people coming back from the dead is happening everywhere. It's nothing to do. It's nothing specific about the Lord of Light or people wearing red or anything like that. That's happening all over the place. And I think we'll probably find in the books that actually what happened was that he goes into ghost. And so all that's happening is that his body is being reanimated, and then his spirit or his soul or whatever it is comes back into it, rather than him personally being brought back. So I think that's what's happening there.
I mean, okay, you're saying, hang on, I'm sorry, I can't glaze over that. You're saying that it's happening all over, but not really. Most of the instances are literally broken. When you break it down, it's R'hllor. It may be someone in a different religion may call it someone different, but there's one true God and there's one true evil. Just like in our society now, like whether you're Christian, Catholic, or whatever, the main religion that takes over, there's one God, and then there's like an anti-version of that, the devil or whatever. So I don't know. I feel like give me an example of there's a resurrection in like any of the 5 that are out right now where the resurrection isn't related to R'hllor somehow. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. I guess with Qyburn in the mountain, but that's something different. That's like the only one that I feel like.
Okay. I can give you. In fact, you know what? I'm talking about my video way too much. My video's cancelled. I'm just saying it here now. So that there's like off the top of my head, Patchface in the books dies and comes back. He's if anything, that's some sort of water thing going on there. We get the mountain. He's been brought back. We get all of the ice whites up north. They've been brought back. You get the Children of the Forest, the spell singers going into the weirwood trees, their spirit has lingered there, so they have still carried on. There's huge amounts of people who we thought had gone, their bodies have gone in some way, or they've been brought back. Lady Stoneheart, I accept, is you could argue is part of this, but these are just isolated examples amidst a sea of people that we thought were dead and have been brought back.
Okay, some of those through science. I 100%. The mountain definitely was only able to survive through like some sort of science. But I feel like it's sort of like that aspect of the seven gods or whatever, or you know, like it's like there's 7 faces to that, and then you know each one represents a different personality or whatever. But really, when they say it in the novels, I can't even remember. It's in World of Ice and Fire. I think Maester Yandel mentions it when he says the learned man would know that it's really just one god, and those are just different aspects of his personality or whatever, and saying there's 7 different gods. I feel like everything like that is misconstrued. All people all over the world are worshiping the same thing. They just don't realize it. There's just different names for it. I don't know. I need that. That's kind of got. I feel like we should record a podcast just talking about religion.
I think you're right. Let's do that. Let's park that for a moment. The only point I will pick up on there is science. You say that the religion would apply across the piece. I would say the science would apply across the piece. If Qyburn has figured out how the science works in one instance, it's the same science that works elsewhere. But we're going to park that. Guys, feel free to comment on all of this. We're going to move on, but we will come back to this at some point. But I can see we've got another few questions coming up. So want to pick up on them, don't want to lose them. Crypts says, Crypt again, thank you so much. Cersei, I kind of like Arya with Qyburn's face. Wow, there's a different turn on it. Love it. By the way, I also feel like Qyburn is a Bolton. Just my opinion. Okay, so 2 things there. I gave you something to go off last time. You start this one and I'll come back on you. Arya with Qyburn's face, and is Qyburn a Bolton?
I don't think Qyburn is a Bolton. I do think that he has some ulterior motives, like he might be working not necessarily for another house, but he might have some of his own like personal motives to do things that he does. I think the main part of that is survival. There's a lot of characters in the books and in the TV show that have these insane events that happen in their past, and that makes them who they are. For instance, with Varys, you have his genitals getting tossed into a fire, that flame turning blue. He hears a voice. That may have happened. It may have not have happened. He could have just been so traumatized as a child that this is just some event that was put in his past to set him on the path that it did, and he becomes this like person who saves orphans, and he's the master of whisperers. He knows all this information. It's convenient for George to have a character like that because this character can explain all of this other crap. So with Qyburn, he may have some mysterious back stuff that happens in his past, but it's mainly just to make him who he is now, and now he's working for the Lannisters, and without him, Cersei would be screwed royally. You know what I mean? As far as Arya wearing his face to kill Cersei, I feel like that is definitely an obvious. Like if it doesn't happen, it would kind of be stupid because that's a perfect opportunity to do that. The one person that is the closest to her now that Jaime's left, Arya wearing his face to kill her totally fits like pieces of a puzzle.
Yeah, so I think on the Bolton, is he a Bolton? As you say, Cripps, just your opinion. I don't think we know, and I don't think it matters for the plot. I don't think he's secretly got some great loyalty to his old house. He left his house decades ago. He went off, joined the Maesters, and then he left that, and he joined the Brave Companions, and then he left that, and then he joined up with the Lannisters. Brave Companions changed sides a few times. He's not this person with this great personal loyalty to a group of people. He's just about himself. So maybe he's a Bolton. I don't know. I actually don't. I don't think it matters to the plot. You may be right, but I don't think we will find out. In terms of the bless you. In terms of the Arya taking Qyburn's face, yeah, that would be a really good ploy. I think one of the reasons why I was thinking that maybe Jaime's face, Arya taking Jaime's face, was that there is as we said, a very short list of people that Cersei would allow to get that close to her. I could imagine Qyburn, I could imagine the Mountain, and I could imagine Jaime if he comes in saying, "I'm really sorry, I got it wrong," down on his knees and all the rest of it. I could imagine her letting him in, and that's how that could happen. But Qyburn is another possibility. I think it's one of the very few people that she will allow to get close enough to her, because we've seen that from season 2, if she thinks that she's going to be killed, she would rather take her own life. So I would say that's definitely possible. Okay, guys. No, go.
Sorry. 2 things. Would she still take her life? She thinks she's pregnant. She has a baby. You know what I mean? I think I don't know. But also, as far as that, wouldn't it be better if Arya, and I've never fucking said this before. Oh my God. I've never said this before. Literally just thought of it right now. What if she takes the face of a little bird? What if she of Qyburn's little bird? So then, you have that whole, maybe Qyburn, not necessarily innocent, but he doesn't get killed in that process. And then, you still have him. Maybe he goes and joins Jon's side again. I don't know. I'm just saying, but what if maybe they're able to do that and she takes out, I don't
know. Good ideas. Yeah, I mean, one of the little birds, maybe that might be another way to get in there. Okay, guys, I want to just take a very quick pause just to, 2 things. First of all, just to say, I did spot the in the chat a lot of feedback. It's official, Sir Hunts does not have an English accent. So thank you guys for clearing that one up. That's really helpful. Secondly, I just want to... That was also not an English accent. All
right. I see that.
Chandra, listen. If you don't think that Mark has an English accent, you're wrong. Robert, you're wrong.
Okay, so I don't know whether everyone else was as freaked out by that as I was, but that was, if anything, a little bit Irish. But okay, so guys, what I want
from Ireland. Isn't the actor that plays? I don't know. All right, I'm done. I'm sorry.
That's fine. Well, I just wanted to very quickly just say a couple of things just to my subscribers and patrons about what's coming up over the next few days. I already talked about my video on Saturday, so I'm not going to do that one. But next week, there will be the second of my 2 videos that my patrons chose for me to do. The first one was the Qyburn one. The second one is 3 tinfoil theories that I actually like. So if you're interested in that, because I'm not really a big fan of tinfoil theories, but there are some that I enjoy. So I'll be putting that video together over the next few days. Hopefully that one's coming out next week. For my patrons, I've chosen the next of my the chapters from the Winds of Winter that I've been narrating. The next one I'll be doing is Barristan 1. There are 2 Barristan chapters that we've got from the Winds of Winter. So that will be coming out again in about a week's time. So that'll be something to look forward to, I hope. And I think that was all the messages I wanted to say. If you're interested in that in terms of the patrons, I forgot to say thank you, patrons. I say it every time. And I mean it every time. I actually cannot do this without you and your support. So thank you so much. If you're interested in joining in the Patreon community, patreon.com/InDeepGeek. There's a link down in the description. But Sir Hunts, is there anything you want to just direct people to? Anything you've got coming up that you want to just point people towards?
I don't know. Maybe you got to go watch the videos. Maybe there's clues. Actually, I think I've done that. I've tried to do that. I'll put whether it's something I say at the very end of the video or just some kind of I focus on one person and that kind of gives you a hint to the next video. I don't really have anything set for you guys to look forward to. So just, I don't know. Make sure you turn notifications on, please.
Okay. Well, what I would say is, guys, I only invite people on my channel to chat if I like them and if I like the stuff that they produce. And I don't say it lightly when I say that Sir Hunts is a bit of a legend. He produces some epic content, so do go and check him out. Sir Hunts Reviews is the full name of the channel, so do have a hunt for that. Again, there's a link down in the description I left for you, so do go and do that. Highly recommended. But we're getting behind on the stuff in the chat. So Emilio again, €5. Thank you so much. Oh, there's some long words in this one. Okay, the devil originated in Zoroastrianism. He doesn't exist in Judaism. My father was Jewish and other religions. So that I think is a comeback to what you were saying earlier about there being two opposite forces in most religions.
Okay, Zoroastrianism is literally one of the oldest religions that is still in practice today. It's like it's an ancient Indian religion. They mainly worship the like a fire. It's God. It's pretty much God. It's like a fire. They leave like fire always burning, and their temples are actually called fire temples. That you might have gotten me there. I don't know enough about Zoroastrianism to sit here and say that there's no duality to the main person they follow and who they, who sets their laws and whatever. But R'hllor does. In like almost every other religion, there's some sort of negative balance there to like the good. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. You got me on that though, because I don't know if there is. I don't know enough about Zoroastrianism to sit here. Yeah. But I do know that there. Sorry, go ahead.
No. You finish off your point. I was going to go off into something nonsense. So do finish off.
But I was about to say I can list like 5 other religions where there is. Is there really no hell in Judaism? Like I didn't realize there really no devil. Was Lucifer not an angel? Like that might be. I don't know enough about that. Obviously, I'm not Jewish, so I couldn't tell you that. But I feel like there is a hell. Maybe there's not a devil, but there's definitely a negative place. Otherwise, why would you continue to do good deeds? Because you want to be like God? That's a slippery slope that I'm going down there. So I'm going to back up. There are some religions that have a duality of like good and evil. Yeah, we'll just say that.
I think that is indisputable that there are indeed some religions that have a duality. So shall we leave that one at there? And I'll also throw out just the other point that the word hell that we have is something which is translated from a number of different words, both in the Hebrew sacred texts and in the Christian sacred texts. So we shouldn't just take hell as a word in and of itself. There's a number of things that contribute to it. But we're going to leave that subject just because, like, we could go down that rabbit hole quite a lot. We have got what have we got? We've got a lot of people with a lot of comments about that accent you did. I think they were agreeing it was Irish, but they're also thinking you should set up a second channel just doing impressions of people.
But isn't Aidan Gillian Irish? Like, isn't that, or is he Scottish? He brings like that accent to the role, so it's almost like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, he is Irish, and his accent is Irish, but it's every kind of Irish accent in one, and it kind of seems to move around the island quite a lot from scene to scene. He's a really good actor, don't get me wrong, but his accent does shift quite a bit. Lost for words, £19.99 for hitting over 150 watching. Thank you so much. That's really kind. Lost for words, thank you. That means a lot to me. And we've got Emilio again, €5. Do you think Littlefinger should have left for the Summer Islands with the money he embezzled? Well, certainly on the show that would have probably got him a slightly better outcome than he got. Yeah, perhaps he should have done. What do you reckon, Mark? Do you think he should have just given up and gone?
And this is in relation to. I'm reading the comments. So I'm like, listen.
You're too good. You're not listening to me. Is just that's just rude. So the question is, should Littlefinger, with all the money that he embezzled when he was in King's Landing, should he have just like taken that money and gone off and had a nice big long holiday rather than got involved in his complicated plan that led to his downfall?
I feel like his whole goal in like his main motivation is wanting to rule. And if that's his goal, you can't run away from that. Maybe eventually you could once you've actually ruled, but his main drive was to one day rule the Ashes if possible. So running away from your problems isn't going to do that. Getting your hands dirty and trying to mingle with as many people as possible to try to work them over somehow, which is what he did until he got, ultimately screwed. that's the only path. The path that he was taking, that's the only way to the crown. For someone like him to make his way there. So everything that he does goes against wanting to take money and run away. Honestly, I could see it being embezzled for when he does plan on taking the crown later on. He has all of this side money to kind of dig the crown out of maybe some debt that he caused. That way it makes him look good. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think rationally, yeah, he could have done a runner with all the money, but I don't think that was what his character was and what his character was about. He was wanting to play the game. He was wanting fundamentally two things that he sort of encapsulated at the end when he was talking to Sansa about, and I'm not going to do the accent because I don't want the mockery, but everything he's working towards is him on the Iron Throne with her by his side. And I think those were the two things. It started off with his infatuation with Cat, and then it moved on to his infatuation with Sansa, and that was aligned with his infatuation for power. And so I think those were the drives that brought him through the entire story. So would it have been better for him just to go off and have a nice long holiday somewhere on a sunny island? Yes, but I don't think he could ever have done that because that wasn't who he was. We've had just a little follow-up here. Emilio saying there is no hell, bad people's souls are cleansed. So I think that was a reference to the Jewish question that we were talking about.
That's what I was reading. That's when I got sidetracked. Like I was listening to you, but I read that and I was thinking about it. So that's why where I got sidetracked. But to add on to what you were saying about Littlefinger, I agree with you that his infatuation or him being in love with Sansa and Catelyn was all a lie. If you love somebody, you wouldn't dump them off with the Boltons. He said he didn't know Ramsay was like that, but you pride yourself in being a spy master and you know all of this shit. Not as much as Varys, but you know all of this information. You should know that Ramsay's is the way that he is. So, and him just leaving Sansa there, that proves that that's a lie. He was just trying to play her even further because he knew that she was the last ticket that he had. You know what I mean? So
absolutely. Guys in the chat, I can see what you're saying, and I'm not doing the accent. I'm sorry. It's like there are some things. Sometimes a man has to just say, no, that's it. It's not happening. Today's one of those days. Sorry, guys. The Irish accent would just be too painful, and you would all switch off straight away, I can assure you. So I've got a random question that I'm just going to throw in there about... it's a fan theory, really. San. Now, for those of you who don't know this is the theory that actually one of the pairs of star-crossed lovers that are destined to come together at the end of all of this is Sandor and Sansa. And the theory, it builds on a lot of sort of textual stuff in the books about him sort of wrapping his cloak around her at one point, which is what happens in wedding ceremonies in Westeros. And there's this very clear sort of tender attachment that he has to her. And it's the fact that she clearly doesn't, to start with, she finds him repulsive. So she changes as a character. So towards the end of it, maybe she will realize that at heart he's a good guy. Mark, have you got any thoughts on Sansa?
I mean, honestly, I think it's a little bit weird. At the point in the books, in relatively now, it's only been a few years. She was like a child. This was like a 40-something-year-old grown man. That's just weird to even think about them together. I feel like that's why it's hard for me to kind of like go with some of the other theories in them because of the age. And I guess you kind of just have to get over that, but not really. That's just weird. I feel like, yeah, it was kind of like he liked Sansa, but I feel like that them getting together, that's just never, I think the role there was just misinterpreted and it was more like a protector role. He wanted to keep her safe. I don't ever see there being like some sort of feelings in between them where they just, I don't know. I feel like the age gap and all that other stuff, there's just too much there. I think Sansa could maybe connect with someone like Theon, because they have that history of them kind of growing up together. And then you have Sansa being betrayed by Theon, but then Theon ultimately redeeming himself and saving her life. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I feel like with Sandor, there's too much of a disconnect. Like, he did save Sansa from getting raped, but they haven't seen each other in so long. You know, that's just I don't know. Maybe I'm biased because I can't get over how weird of a thing, if that's even a thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I kind of agree. I have to say, I think this seems to be kind of stretching a point quite a lot. I think he clearly has this kind of protective feel for her, but he then takes that and transfers that onto Arya, and so that's almost like he has this deep inside him, this need to protect people from the bully, from the bad world outside, because that's what he actually needed as a child and as a person. And that's why he's built this shell around himself where he's just so disdainful of everything in the world, so ultra realistic. So I think that's what's going on there. I don't think it's a romance thing. I certainly don't think there was anything in Sansa there. Yes, there. If you sort of go all through the text, there are a few times when she thinks back to him and thinks about how protective he was. But you could also see equally things like that linking her to Jon, for example. If Sansa is going to marry anyone, and I don't think it's a definite by any sort of any measure. If she's going to marry anyone, I think she will remarry Tyrion, because I think that is coming back to the whole initial idea of this being something based on the Wars of the Roses, where that was very simplified history here, but that was ended by a marriage between the heir to the Yorks and an heir to the Lancasters. And if we get the Starks and the Lannisters coming together, and perhaps that could be how the whole battle play between these different families ends, because of course all the Targaryens would be dead. Go.
Isn't it nice way to trigger someone right before they respond? All the Targs dead, but no, yeah. Weren't the Lancasters and the Yorks actually related to each other through like a cousin or something?
Yeah, they were. They were. Yeah.
So yeah, that's even more so like them, because there's some sort of blood tie that I honestly definitely think there's some Targaryen in the Lannister line, but also in the Stark line. So you also have them sort of related through that too. Like the Lancasters and the Yorks, the Starks and the Lannisters are related somewhere through the Targaryens, because we all know they used to fornicate with everyone. So.
Absolutely. Okay, guys. Should we just take a few moments just to say a few shout outs, a few hellos? Let's have a look, see who we've got here. We've got 26 Art Girl, one of my patrons. Hi there. Laura D, hello. Nymeria Wolf, Bubba Husky, Stereo Cassette, Sonia Rangel, hi, good to see you here. So Roland de Stark, Emilio said hi a few times to you already. Scott McCloy's here. Chicken Lipstick, Arde, great to see you too. Anyone you want to say hello to?
Hi, Mom. No, I'm just kidding. First thing popped off my head. Nah, my mom. Yeah. But yeah. Shout out to a lot of the people in the chat. That's what's up. Super shout out to Terry. He's the executive producers of all of my videos. So shout out to him. I don't want to like forget anyone. So I guess I saw Terry in the chat a few minutes ago. I don't know who else is in there, but what's up, everyone?
Excellent. Just a couple more. Kelly Lausman says hello to me. Sabrina Aina says greetings. Deborah, hi. Cameo, Frank, lots of people that are in here saying, oh, that was really nice to shout out your mum, says Deborah. So there you go. You got a lot of love going on for that. Okay, guys. If you got any more questions, shoot them at us, particularly about either Sandor or Gregor. Overall thoughts. Should we go back to Sandor for a moment? What's your overall feeling on him? We've touched on it a few times. Is he at heart a good guy? Is he damaged in some way? Do you think he is fundamentally on a path to becoming maybe not a faith leader, but becoming an idealized good guy? What do you think his overall path is in that?
Real quick, looking at the chat here, Adi Aki said there are no Targaryens in the Stark family tree. Jon Snow, Aegon Targaryen. But anyway, I definitely think Sandor fits the whole role of being a crippled bastard and broken thing. He almost fits every single one of those. He's physically a cripple. He did have a father, so he was not technically a bastard, but I honestly think that it was kind of shady that his dad hid all of this stuff to kind of like make Gregor look better. Because if, obviously he shoved his brother's face into it, and that was kind of like shoveled under the rug. I agree with certain people saying that the reason why he did that, it was because Gregor was the heir and he didn't want, that kind of drama that was associated with that to come onto his family. But I feel like he fits that bastard role because of that. He's kind of not literally a bastard, but the same idea is that he was like almost unwanted by his father. There's no contextual evidence or anything to that, but I feel like if we ever get the Winds of Winter, there might be some light shed on that. Maybe Sandor will get a POV chapter, but he's definitely on his path from his upbringing. Like he started out on the TV show, at least. He started out as a character, and in the books, I guess. He starts out as a character that I was like, yeah, he's a cool looking dude. He's probably got some cool moves. Because honestly, when I first started watching Game of Thrones, I assumed everyone had some sort of secret power. And like I was trying to figure out what everyone's secret power was. So when I saw the Hound, I'm like, the burns on his face, he must have some sort of like fire powers. Anyway, that got dismissed. Like after the first episode, I realized no one has magic powers yet. But I mean, yeah, I feel like I definitely think that he's on the path that he is because he's a broken character, and that's just going to turn out to mean that he might be one of the ones that are left alive in the end because of how crazy of a journey he's had.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree. I think he is one of the cripples, bastards, and broken things, and I think actually this is one of the things that gives me the most hope that he's going to survive. I think that we will see that all of the people who are most powerful at the start of this, we've already seen in the show that all of the lords of the great houses that we had at the beginning have all gone already. But all of the big and important and powerful people will be gone, and we'll have a completely new set of people who are having to take forward to the new world. And these are going to be predominantly people who have been damaged somehow by what's happened. So we will have the cripples, bastards, and broken things. So I think Tyrion will survive. I think Sam was broken by what happened with his father. I think we will see Theon. I think Sandor again is another one of these people. So I think that is where he's going to end up. A couple more super chats. Emilio says, "Thanks for your patience with me, Sir Hunts." There you go. Thank you for being patient. He's a very patient man, so I'm sure you're more than welcome. He's saying no, hurry up. Okay, guys. So Crips says, I'm now having to speed up because he's being so impatient with me.
I'm just joking. Yeah.
Crips, $10 again. Thank you so much. How about the She-Wolf and the Hound as a spin-off? Arya and Sandor go after Cersei when she flees King's Landing. That I mean, I would watch that. I think in the real world, we have been told that we're not going to get spin-offs with any of the characters that we've encountered so far, and we're not going to get any sequels. They're all going to be sort of before what happened on the show. So I would definitely watch that, but I don't think that's going to happen. Sorry. What about you, Mark?
I mean, that would probably be. It sounds like a good idea, but when you think about a show like I know I just mentioned at the beginning of this live stream, they should have their own show. But when you actually think about it, there's no source material for it. And I feel like at certain parts that the show is taking liberty for, like certain plot lines in season 7 that they just taking liberties with, sometimes the way that they are creative isn't the same way George would be creative. So if we had a show that was based on that with no like books or any kind of source material, it might just be crazy and like I don't know. It would make for a good like mini series, like maybe like a 5-part mini series where we find out what happens to Arya, but we find out what happens to other characters through like this mini series with Arya. Like she has different run-ins with different people, or she like thinks about what a certain person may be doing right now. I don't know. Maybe I gave it too much thought, and it was just kind of like, would you like to see it? Because and a simple answer, hell yeah, I would love to see it. It'd be probably one of the greatest things.
Absolutely, and in terms of that, we've also been told it's not going to be Dunk and Egg. So I think that's a shame. I think for me, it's the most likely ones are things to do with the Dance with Dragons or possibly the Blackfire Rebellion, something going on around there. What I personally would most like to see, and I've no idea whether they do it, is something set in Braavos, because I think that's an amazing city. I think it's been really well built up, and I think that it would be fascinating to see the House of Black and White and the Iron Bank and the politics. There's a huge amount of politics going on behind the scenes in the book, so I would love to see that. Okay, there was a question that really sorry, I can't remember who said it. It was just came up in the chat a while ago, and then it sort of scrolled through because there's so many comments. There's lots of really good chat going on, but I just thought it'd be a really good one to just to pick up on. Was asking, do we think that actually the final battle, the final confrontation, is not going to be with the Night King, not going to be with the White Walkers, but it's going to be down with Cersei down in King's Landing? I think, personally, I think that is entirely possible. I think that we will get the big resolution. It probably will be a battle in the show. I don't think it necessarily will be in the books, but I think we'll get the resolution with the White Walkers, and then we will have a sort of a mopping up and making the new world kind of episode, which will be an hour and a half of it, and I think that will be sorting out what happens in King's Landing. And if you'll allow me to go off on a slight tangent on this one, but we keep on talking about the bittersweet ending, but what George R.R. Martin has also said, which I found even more interesting, because he said that he really likes the scouring of the Shire, which is like the penultimate chapter of the Lord of the Rings, and he says he wants the same feeling that is in that chapter to be at the end of A Song of Ice and Fire. And that chapter is when the hobbits go back to the Shire. They find that there's I won't spoil it in case you've not read it, but they find that it's been taken over by some bad people, and then they kick them out and they try and rebuild the Shire. They are different. They've been changed by their experiences. The Shire is different and has been changed by its experiences, but they are trying to rebuild it. So I could see that feel being going down to King's Landing, getting rid of the last of what used to be there, the remnants of the old regime, and trying to build again and start again. But that's just my random theory. Sir Hunt, you will have a much better theory about this, I'm sure.
Once again, set me up to knock it out of the friggin' pack, and I don't really have anything to add because you kind of covered it all. I honestly feel like it would be a great conclusion to have the final battle take place at King's Landing. A lot of people think this can happen in the God's Eye, but that significance and that importance hasn't really been important on the show. It hasn't really been a thing. It hasn't been mentioned too much. If we had brought in the Reeds a few seasons ago, if we had brought in Howland Reed like back in season 6, when I feel like it would have been perfect to just slip him in there, like maybe as soon as Mira gets back to the wall with Bran, she immediately goes, there's like a bit of a time jump. She goes to go get her father, and like, maybe he comes to the wall. I think there's still a chance for that to happen. I don't think that it's the last we saw of Mira, but that was the main root of the question, right? Was that, wouldn't it be, like if the final battle took place at King's Landing, right?
Sorry, now it was my turn to completely ignore you. I was reading the chat. Well, I'm sure what you were saying was really good, though. So there's so many good questions coming up in the chat.
When you read one, someone else says something, so I feel you on that. But no, like that was a question that I was answering. Was like, right? Wasn't it pretty much that the final battle happened at King's Landing, as opposed to?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I don't think that is the big battle. I don't think that. I think that's more of a mopping up thing that's going to be happening in King's Landing. I think it will get firebombed from above. I think that the vision on the show that Danny had about the walking through the Great Hall there, it was very clearly attacked from above because the ceiling is all gone, but the floor seems and all the stuff near the ground seems okay. So I think that will probably come true, which means that at least one dragon will get there. True to you, $10. Thank you so much. That's really kind. Okay, so I don't want to drag this one for too much longer. So let's just take a few more questions. So do fire in any more questions for us, guys. Somebody again, I missed you again. Chris Weinberger says, thanks for answering my question about the fight. You're very welcome. Thank you for pointing out it was you. And sorry for not picking up on it before. Let's go with my thing keeps on flicking past people. Nymeria Wolf says, I still think Howland is in a tree in the neck and he cannot travel. I'm a big fan of Howland Reed, I have to say. I picked up on this one because Sir Hans was talking about Howland a moment ago. I think in the book he is going to be central to helping everyone unpick what happened in the past, what happened at the Tower of Joy. I don't think that's just going to be Bran seeing a vision and now suddenly understanding everything. I think that Howland Reed will be central to that. I think, in fact, he was central to a lot of what happened around the time of Robert's Rebellion and with Rhaegar and Lyanna. I think he was really quite central to all of that. And I think that he will come back at the end of the books. I think on the show, my only hope on the show is that Mira name-checked him actually in the season, saying that she was the daughter of Howland Reed, and then she headed off back down to the neck. So maybe he'll get a cameo, but I don't think on the show he will be important at all.
What? I understand what you're saying about the books. I feel like George has unlimited amount of pages in imagination to make it happen so that, maybe we do have it going down similar to the way on the show where it's Bran and then Howland is the one who has to sort of like corroborate what he's saying. You know how Sam is the one who does that because he found the marriage certificate. Or I guess, didn't Gilly find it, really? I guess Gilly was, yeah. And then he kind of like is going to take credit for it, obviously. But yeah, maybe we'll have something like that. But also, it's not just Bran that I feel like in the novels, it's not just going to be Bran that finds out about Jon's lineage. I feel like there may be other characters who will find out about his true lineage, and that makes them sort of work against him. Like maybe Daenerys finds out about his lineage before he does. Like obviously the show's going this one route. Like Bran and Sam are going to tell him, and maybe everyone else. But I feel like there's so many more opportunities that George has in the books to have multiple people find out about it. Maybe Jon's one of the last ones who finds out about it. Honestly, as right now, Jon Snow's dead, and I feel like I would laugh so hard if he dies in the books, because that will forever be the one thing that the show has on the novels. And everybody and their mama knows that it's, even if you just read one page out of the book that has been similar to something that's happened in the TV show, you're going to be like, well, wow, the book kind of did it a little bit better. Yeah, because sometimes you can paint a better picture with words. But I feel like if he stays dead, that's going to hurt a lot of people. And it will be really funny because it'll be the one thing that the show did better than the books because they kept Jon Snow alive. And George is totally, I mean, come on, you read the whole first book, I'm like, man, this dude Ned is going to do some great things. He's just like the problem solver. Ned Stark, the man. Bam, done. He's dead. You know what I mean? Like, not even seeing it. So it's not completely out of question for Jon Snow to stay dead. And I don't even remember what the original question was, but I hope I answered that in this process of going on the tangent.
Well, I think that's a great theory about Jon not returning, but I think it's absolute nonsense. Sorry, mate. I think
he works into Ghost, like you said, but he never gets back into his body. Maybe it's too long and he stays trapped inside Ghost. You know what I mean?
I think there's too much thematically. This is the Song of Ice and Fire. This is about ice warriors coming from the north, the fire dragons coming from the east, and the one person who is both ice and fire is Jon Snow, and I think he is the balance, and I think he is central to the story. That doesn't mean that he's going to end up being the king ruling everything, but I think he is central to the story, and I think he will make it to the end game. So no, I disagree. But we got another couple of really good questions coming in. Lana Allen says, sorry to get tinfoily here. We love a bit of tinfoil. Don't worry about it. But how do you all feel about the idea that there may be a human secretly allied with the Night King, like Euron or Varys, for example? Is that too out there? I don't think it's too out there. I think of the people who say it, definitely not Varys. I think Varys in the books has got a huge plot going on with Fagon. On the show, then I think he's actually pretty much what he seems to be. I don't think he's got some secret deal going on with the Night King. Euron, I think, is different because I think Euron, certainly in the books, is he has this grand plan to make himself a god, and the way he wants to do that is to bring the entire world, basically burn it down into ashes, and then him rise up out of it with these godlike powers. It's a crazy plan, but that is his plan, and he could well see that a way to do that is to ally himself with somebody he thinks will bring huge destruction. So do I think there is anyone at the moment? No, I don't think so, but I don't think it's a completely out there theory. What do you reckon, Sir Hans?
I mean, I don't know. I think you answered it. I don't even want to add anything onto it because you got it. And that's been the only question that I feel like that with this live stream. So I feel like I can get one pass on that. Yeah, maybe.
No passes. No, yeah, that's you. Of course, you can have a pass. That's not a problem. But it means you have to answer this.
Say, you're a dick. Is he serious, dude? What?
No. It means that you're going to get to answer this next question first, which is from Kelly Lausman, and it's a good one. Do you think Dark Sister or Blackfire will be seen in the show? How about in the books?
I'm gonna refer you to a video that I just did, and then one that I did like 6 months ago. I mentioned how I think that Dark Sister is the cat's paw dagger. There's some similarities between it. The cat's paw dagger was like we've seen it on the TV show. It's got like I guess a lot of people think that it's called that because there's like the hilt of it. It looks like a cat's paw, but then there's also this whole other group of people that think it's called the cat's paw dagger because it's being like misnamed. It's actually something else, and cat's paw is like an old term that can be used for people to trick someone into thinking something. So that's why it's called the cat's paw daggers, because it's tricking us into thinking that it's just a regular Valyrian steel dagger, even though Valyrian steel itself isn't regular. But I feel like it's definitely a possibility for it to be Dark Sister. Dark Sister was described as being a woman's blade. It was smaller. Also, the way that the handle looks, like when you see the picture for the artwork that's accredited to it, and then you see the modern day cat's paw, there's like this weird spiral design that goes down the handle. It also looks like, it could be maybe that. I thought that honestly, the sword that Mira grabs when she's running out of the cave, just like 40 million other people who watch the TV show, I thought that could be Dark Sister, just because that would be a cool way of like, kind of being like, we know Blood Raven went north of the wall. He was the last person to be seen with Dark Sister. It would be cool to have that work its way back into the story, but that quickly got shoved out when Mira would have given the Valyrian steel sword to Bran if that was the case. She didn't. And it honestly, it looked like a totally different sword. But I feel like there's a possibility for the cat's paw dagger to be some other secret Targaryen sword. Maybe that being Dark Sister. Also, with it being gifted to Arya, we do know that Arya is the one Stark that's gone down a super dark path. As far as Blackfire for the TV show, probably not. I think it would be awesome if, and someone commented this on one of my videos. Actually, a few people did, but it would be awesome if it showed back up with the Golden Company. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think on the show for both of these, I think the answer is probably no, but I wouldn't put it past them to do like a nod to it. In the same way with Dawn, the sword, the House Dane sword. They showed it. The shot lingered on it for a moment, so we knew what it was. There was a sort of thematic reference that was going on there, but then they moved on, and I don't think we're going to see that again. So I think that it's entirely possible that they will show one or both of those swords just for the fans without actually having them do an important thing. I think just picking up on the cat's paw dagger, one of the things that, and I've not explored this in great detail for like a video or anything, one of the things I find fascinating is the fact that it perhaps uniquely amongst the Valyrian steel blades does not have a name. We call it the cat's paw dagger because it was given to a cat's paw assassin. That's not the name it has. It's not a name. Guys, if you know of any other ones, as I said, I've not researched this properly. If you know of any other Valyrian steel swords that haven't got names, then let me know. But it just seems a bit odd that something this precious, this valuable, and as far as we can tell, there's only like 200 and something of these swords around. It hasn't got a name, and we don't know much about the history. So it really would not surprise me if this actually was a named sword. So maybe it is one of them. Blackfire. It wouldn't surprise me if that makes an appearance with the Golden Company in the books. But again, we'll have to see on that one.
I was going to say one thing I wanted to add to what you were saying there. Someone actually left a comment on one of my videos the other day saying there's no history of a Targaryen sword going missing. Like we kind of, or like basically there's no like history of that. And I was like, I mean, almost every single Valyrian steel in Westeros, if I'm not mistaken, Aegon gifted them to people that he elected and put in power. Almost all of them were given from the Targaryen family to Westeros. So all of those blades, you know, obviously he could have had some of them forged for those people, but some of them were likely just swords that his house had. You know what I mean? I'm sure Valyrian steel was nowhere near as now after the post Doom of Valyria. I'm pretty sure Valyrian steel swords weren't. I mean, obviously they were rare. They're in great shape. Everyone wanted to keep them because you never had to sharpen them, whatever. But post Doom of Valyria, I'm pretty sure, like you were saying, it doesn't make sense for a sword to not be named and not have a history, especially after Valyria is destroyed and then the recipe is lost, you know, to making that sword. It just doesn't make sense. This has to be connected to somewhere. And like they even showed a picture of it. Remember when Sam was looking through that books, they literally showed a picture of that exact dagger on the page. So, you know.
Yeah, I agree. There's definitely a history there, and I think even during the height of the Valyrian Empire in Westeros, and don't forget the Valyrians, they didn't make it over to Westeros. They stopped. Dragonstone was as far as they went west. In Westeros, there was the same rarity even then, even when these swords were still being created, and it cost a huge amount of money for a noble house to buy a sword, to buy a Valyrian steel sword. There's lots of stories about, you know, the sacrifices that certain houses had to make in order to buy one of these swords in the first place. So yeah, it's very odd why we don't know about this, and it just seems to be hanging around, sort of just in the family. That we know full well that the Lannisters are desperately searching for their old sword, and they're desperately looking for new swords. So
what was it? Bright Roar or something was the name of it?
Yeah, exactly. And it was it just seems bizarre that there was this other one that they just got hanging around, and then nobody makes a big deal about it. But as I say, maybe I'll do a video on that one sometime. Sir Hans has already done one, so go and have a look at that. But yeah,
that was before season 7, really. Like there was only one episode, so it's out of date. I need to update that. I feel like it would be a good podcast discussion just for like this, to just like talk all Valyrian steel swords, like where they come from, what do we think the secret recipe. I think that'd be a really good
Absolutely, yeah. Let's do that. Crypts, $10. Thank you again. From Forest Blurter. Guys, by the way, I really love it when people do super chats and saying, hey, answer this other person's question, because I mean I completely appreciate not everyone can do super chats, and particularly when the comments are going through so quickly, it's really easy to miss some of the good questions going through. So that's amazing when people like Crips pick up on others questions and bring them to our attention. So thank you so much for that. The question from Forest Blurter: whose blue heart did Daenerys see in the House of the Undying? Wow, you're asking the deep questions here. This is a book question. She didn't, unless I blinked and missed it in the show, she didn't see this. But in the,
I'm checking now because I'm like, what was that there? And I just missed that. No, I'm looking now. No, I don't think that's a definitely a book question. It's like a rotting blue heart or whatever.
Yeah. So what happens for those who haven't read the books is that in when she goes to the House of the Undying, she has a lot more visions, and she goes through and sees lots of visions on her way to try and find the Undying, who she's been told will be able to answer her questions. When she gets there, there's just like this stupid amount of visions coming at her. But there is also, in the middle of all of this, when she finds what she thinks of the Undying, there is hovering in the middle of the room a blue heart which is beating. But around her, the Undying appear not to be alive in some way. So if you read the books, you will find it's in book 2, Clash of Kings. You will find it's there's a lot more detail around it, but that's the basic situation. Then
a lot of people think that it's the actual like essence of the Undying, like life being pumped into it or whatever. Those rotting hearts represent like the source of their magic, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that's what it is. I mean, I think as with so many things, we won't know for certain, because in the books, as on the show, she then burnt the whole place down. But
bye.
It seems to be that that this was somehow, whatever this was magically keeping the Undying alive, and the Undying seem to have been warlocks, like we saw Piet Pri, who was like the face of the warlocks, who have just like ascended to the next level of being a warlock, to be the Undying. They are very I can't remember the exact description, but it's very clear that the way that when you drink Shade of the Evening, which is that sort of weird hallucinogenic drug that they take, it turns your lips blue, and the Undying that she sees around her there are also blue. I think their lips are blue as well. Don't believe me though, do check that. I'm not 100% sure on that one.
Right.
And the heart which is beating is again blue. So I think that there's this kind of link going through there, and I think that yes, this is sort of the essence of whatever is keeping them alive when they should have died, when they should be passed on. And I think for me, this actually, because I'm plugging it every few minutes, this is to do with my next video. This is another example of life and death works differently in the world of Ice and Fire than it does in us. These are people who should be dead, but their life has been extended in some way. They're not, their physical bodies are dead, but they are being kept alive, reanimated, as it were. So that's what I think's going on. It was quite a long explanation to get there, but I hope Forest Blurter, that sort of explains it. Is there anything you had to add to that one?
Well, Euron drinks Shade of the Evening too, and he has his priest. So I think that whole ideal of like you have to expand your mind, maybe they do it through like the same way that all of the undead that the Night King control are being kept alive by him. A lot of people think that his source of power is that piece of dragon glass they shoved into his chest. So if you were to destroy that, they couldn't, like if you were to destroy the heart from the House of the Undying, it would destroy that. Destroy the magic with that as well, like the Undying itself. That was it.
Excellent. We've had Sean McPherson, $5, saying, "Do you think Varys and Qyburn will work together?" And who kills Varys? Well, I'll certainly answer the first one straight away. I can't see that they will. I think certainly on the show, Varys has come across as this character who cares about the little people. And one of the things that Qyburn is notable for is he does not care. He will take anybody's body to do his own experiments. He's not thinking about that. He's just doing what he wants to do and doesn't care about the little people. I don't see that they will end up on the same side. Who kills Varys is a big question. And I'm going to throw that one at Sir Hunts.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. To add on to what you were saying about Qyburn, I kind of disagree. I do think that he is looking out for the little people. What he doesn't care about is he's a savage. Not like he's a caveman, but like just, turn a phrase. He's a savage in the sense that he knows that whatever knowledge he's pursuing is better for the betterment of mankind. Whatever answers or secrets to life and death that he's finding are going to work for the betterment of man. He found out how to bring someone back from the brink of death. And whether you want to look at it as a good thing or a bad thing, obviously we all hate the mountain, so it's a bad thing. But his experiments and his knowledge can be used to better all of Westeros. So he is looking out for the little people in that sense. He doesn't care. He doesn't discriminate about whose body that he uses or whatever, but neither do modern day doctors when they have to cut open cadavers. They're not like, oh, I'm not about to do this because I might have known this person. You know what I mean? That kind of ethics steps away from it. It's like all for, or one for all for one or whatever, but it's like, it's bettering society. So that's why he has that mentality of like, he doesn't really have the same things that would prevent people like me and you, like morals and stuff, because he knows that ultimately the end game, his research is more important than that. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I guess I could add that. And as far as who killed Varys or who's going to kill Varys, I don't know. I honestly haven't even thought about him dying. On the TV show, we do know that Mel tells him that he's gonna die in a strange land, just like her. And he kind of had that weird look, so that might have been predictions to kind of like, or like maybe that was like a little bit of like foreshadowing to like she knows what the blue flame said to Varys, and maybe that blue flame, the voice in the flames, told him that like what he was going to do with his life or something, and maybe he's been trying not to do it, but maybe he told him that he's going to die in a strange place. I don't know. I guess it would have to be the little birds. Maybe Qyburn has the little birds kill Varys. I don't know. We do know that's what he does with Pycelle in the books, so maybe the TV show kind of switches it around and has Varys killed by the little birds. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good theory. I mean, I think for me on the show, I think he will get killed by Dragonfire. I think he'll be killed by Daenerys. I think they kind of queued this up. There was that really quite bizarre conversation that Daenerys and Varys had. I say bizarre because it was like, why didn't you have this conversation the other side of the huge ocean that you just sailed over? But it was it was fundamentally the question of why on earth should I trust you, Varys? Because you switched sides a few times. From my perspective, you served my father, then you served the person who got my father killed and deposed, and now you're serving me. How should I trust you? And he gives his reasons, and then she says, you know what? If you ever betray me, then I will kill you with Dragonfire. And I think that's a quite heavy-handed way of the show foreshadowing what will happen to him, because I do think it is entirely likely that if it becomes general knowledge about Jon's parentage, then there will be some people who care about who sits on the Iron Throne who will weigh up these two options and say, you know what, Jon's got a better claim. Not only has he got a better claim, he is much, much less likely to be burning down cities just on the whim, which is what Daenerys has threatened to do on many occasions. And I can see, I'm just trying to get into Varys's head here. I can see that Varys could well turn around, maybe even Tyrion as well, and say, you know what, I think we should go with Jon. He's got the better claim, and he's not going to kill lots of people. And if he does that, I could see Daenerys doing what she said she was going to do. And I'll give you right of reply in just one moment, because I think this ties up with what I think will happen in the books, which is that I think that Fagon will also be killed in Dragonfire, because I think that one of the visions that she had in the House of the Undying was that she was going to expose the cloth dragon, the Mama's dragon. He's not a real Targaryen, and I think the way that she will ultimately prove that is by killing him by Dragonfire. And I think that as Varys is on his side, I think he'll also get caught in the crossfire. So that's my theory. I think Daenerys will kill him with Dragonfire. But what do you reckon? You clearly had something to say when I started dissing Daenerys.
Well, because you were saying how Varys would look at it. So once you said that, it clarified for me. I'm like, okay, you don't actually feel this way, do you?
Oh yeah, obviously I do. I mean, she's the baddie of the whole thing. Everyone knows that.
What the? Well, come on, bro. You can't just do that. All right. So first off, Dany would not just go off and burn a city for no reason. Those are words. People say words all the time. No one is as crazy as Cersei Lannister. No one's insane as that. Honestly, I'm going to have to agree with you that, yes, Jon Snow has arguably the only claim in Westerosi society, in a patriarchal society, whatever you want to call it. I'm not trying to offend feminists or anti-feminists or whatever. But in their society, Jon Snow would be a better fit. His father was the son of the king, the last king who was a Targaryen king in power. It was during the middle of the Targaryen dynasty, and you got to remember, Robert only was able to claim the throne through his grandmother being a Targaryen. Raelle, I think, or Raella, whatever. So, yeah, in that sense, Jon Snow does have the strongest claim, but you have to realize that Daenerys has inspired more people than Jon. Jon has inspired the North. He's inspired the free folk to come and join him, but Daenerys is more of like, did you ever see Jon? I guess you could argue that he was doing that because it was interesting. Like the parallels between Daenerys, I think it was season 4, maybe season 5. She had all of the people from the city, from Marine, coming to talk to her, telling her problems. Remember the one guy brings his daughter who got burned by Drogon or his sheep or whatever. You remember? So she's like a queen of the people in that sense. Jon is the king of the people in the sense that he's had his small council who are somewhat regular, but not really, because they're from high houses in Westeros or in the North rather. And they kind of talk to him. You've never seen Jon like actually meet with. I feel like she's got maybe a better head on her shoulders when it comes to dealing with that kind of politics. Like, yeah, she is rash. I mean, I'm not even gonna keep talking because like I'm a Daenerys fan, so I'm gonna defend Daenerys. What I've been doing recently is doing videos that focus on Jon Snow being that ultimate ice and fire. And it's kind of been opening my eyes a little bit more into seeing Jon. And Jon's still my favorite character. So imagine the duality. You think that Cersei and Jaime fight all the time. Imagine what I go through when I'm making these videos and I'm trying to prove that this one character is this one thing for this one theory, even though I hate this part. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Okay, guys. So I have to admit that Sonia, one of my patrons, called me out on it. I was winding you up, mate. I'm sorry. I just thought I'd wind you up and let you go. Daenerys is clearly an amazing woman. Let's just leave it at that. Okay, we've got one more, and I'm going to wrap this up soon, guys. So if you've got any more questions, do quickly fire them in. But we had a big picture question coming in here from 26 Art Girl. Do you think that Old Nan's right that all this is in the eye? This, I think, is a reference to the eye. She says that all of us is in the eye of the giant. Was it Macumber? I think it was. I think that's just poetic language myself. I think that we're not going to get one of these things like in was it Men in Black or Men in Black 2 when you just get the whole universe was just like in this little ball.
Oh, the Marvel?
I don't think we're going to get one of those kind of things at the end of it. I think this was just her sort of more poetic way of saying that the with this huge universe we think of as being huge actually is all interconnected and quite a beautiful thing. So I think that's what was going on there. You got any thoughts on that one?
Yes, sir. I think more so in what Men in Black were trying to do with that. It's like They want you to put it all into perspective. Our problems or our issues, our wars that we have going on are just so small when you think about the bigger picture. When you zoom out, you see that they're in this small marble who's in a bag of a kid alien's other bag of marbles that has all these other galaxies. I think that's the main point of what she was trying to say is like, you know, like some people think that we're all living inside the eye of a giant. Some people think that, you know, that's something that silly. I think you can break it down more so to like our problems or whatever may all mean nothing when it comes to the end. You know what I mean? Because we're all a smaller part to a bigger machine, I guess. I don't know.
Absolutely. I think in the chat they're completely agreeing with you, and I do too. Deborah Breedlove says it's just the wisdom of the old woman. I think she's trying to say this is so small, this petty fight doesn't matter. I think that's entirely right. And LMC reminds me it's International Women's Day. So happy International Women's Day, and it's a good time to be celebrating the wisdom of old man. I think that's fantastic. We've got Benny Schonfield about the Horn of Winter, which I think is probably a reference to a video I did a couple of weeks ago. What if the water pumped through Winterfell actually serves as part of a mechanism to which the horn is attached to be blown? Said machine is buried in caved-in section of the crypts. Now, I'm not going to embarrass Sir Hunts by asking whether he saw my video on that one, so I'll very briefly explain my theory, which is that the Horn of Winter, which is almost certainly, I think, what Sam has been carting around, was broken, probably, I think, by Brandon the Breaker, hence his name. And I think that the purpose of the Horn of Winter is to wake the dead in Winterfell's crypts. I think that's what the role of it is. And I think that the caved-in section at the bottom of the crypts is not only to hide away the Starks which had risen up the first time to fight the Night's King, the 13th Lord Commander in the books, but also perhaps there's something else hidden back there connected to this. So in terms of this theory here, if the water being pumped through Winterfell actually serves as part of a mechanism which allows the horn to be blown, I think that's possible. Personally, I think the more likely thing, if there is something connected to this buried in that early part of the crypts, is a second half to the horn. I think that when we say it's broken, it's either magically broken or it was broken in half, preventing it from being blown. And you'll seen in the books when Jon, he blew it, he looked at the horn. There were a few cracks, but he obviously thought it would work, and he blew it, and it didn't work. So it was broken. So perhaps there needs to be another part to it, or perhaps, as you say, there's something else hidden in Winterfell that might make it work. So Hunts, did any of that make sense to you?
I like that. You went deep there. I never thought about it that way. You made me think that maybe there's something to Starks being the only ones who can actually being brought back, maybe through lore or whatever. Maybe the only reason why Beric was brought back was because Ned sent him on a mission, and it was Ned's dying thing. So we know that the Starks that came back before to fight the dead. Who's to say that that's why Jon didn't come back in order? Like, obviously, Ned's head was removed and his body was destroyed, so maybe that's why he's not able to come back. But wouldn't that be crazy if we just saw like Robb and all them? Like, are Robb bones even under there? Are they still twins? Like, do the Freys still have Robb's bones? I don't know. I feel like Arya should have.
Yeah, I think they're still missing. I have to say, certainly in the books, I'm not sure. It's not clear on the show what's happened with any of the bones. They've not majored on this at all. So I'm thinking. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say Ned's. We know I think are under there because remember, not Jamie. Someone brought them her Ned's bones and she buried them. Remember when she opened them, we can kind of see like part of it. She started crying.
On the show, I can't remember that. I think Littlefinger was trying to claim credit for it. So in the books and the show, I think the Ned Stark's bones are lost somewhere in the neck.
Sorry, I was about to say I think his head might be on Robert Strong's body. I did a little crazy tinfoil theory on that, like back in 2016, but I don't know. I feel like
yeah, that's that would be quite a turn up because the Mountain's head for non-book readers, the Mountain's head or skull, we should say, seems to have been sent to Dawn by Qyburn to sort of show he was killed in this battle. So as they had other heads lying around, presumably one of them was used, and hey, why not Ned's head?
Or some people think that it's Robert Baratheon's head, and that's why he's called Robert Strong. What do you think about that, man?
I think there's so much tinfoil around that I don't know what to do with it. It's just a bit too bright for me, mate. I'm sorry. You're getting a bit of love for the cat in the background there, just so you know.
Yeah, he just gagged. That shit, it scared me. I was like, dude, what the hell? What was that? He just goes, ah. And that's so you can see, like, if you go back and watch, I just immediately looked to my right because he just made this crazy noise. It scared me. I was like, dude.
So Pounce lives, says Josh Scott. Okay, guys, I think I'm gonna pull this one to a close, or draw this one to a close now. This has been a really fun live stream. Thank you all so much. It's starting to get a little bit late for me here, and so I'm starting to run out of steam. So sorry about that. I could happily chat away to Mark here for quite a lot longer, but I think there were certainly at least a couple of things that, as we were going through, we thought it would be great for us to come back to and do another one. So yeah, I'm sure this won't be the last time that we work together like this. I know I've been on his channel before. I'm sure I'll have him back on here again. Is there anything you want to just sort of say, remind people where to find you if they've not stumbled across your channel before?
Sure. You can find me on YouTube at Sir Hunts and on Twitter at Sir_Hunts. And you know, I do videos mainly based on the show, but then when I'm stretching and when I'm reaching, I'll pull contextual evidence from the books. You know, make sure you go subscribe, follow me on social media. I also have an Instagram account, which I need to start promoting more. It's like Sir_Hunts_reviews, because I don't know, I was trying to be like different or whatever. But yeah, go and check me out. And thank you for having me on, Robert.
It was an absolute pleasure. As I say, I really enjoyed this, guys. Thank you so much for the great chat. There was so much stuff. Apologies, we probably missed quite a lot of good questions as they went through. Thank you, particularly for the super chats. That's really that so many completely blew me away. That's incredibly generous, guys. Do check out my channel, and if you're interested in my narrations of the Winds of Winter chapters, it's on Patreon, link down below. Okay, guys, thank you so much for this. I've had an absolute blast. Mark, as I'm sure you've seen, is a great thinker and a really fun guy to have around. Really do go check out his channel. Guys, thank you. I shall see you again soon.